Starting off in this location, you've got your expansion tank and pressure cap. On the cap, it tells you what pressure the coolant system operates under. This sensor here is to tell the operator that the coolant is running low. Behind the expansion tank, you've got one of your wiring harnesses. Now just behind that wiring harness, you've got, underneath this plastic cover, you've got your suspension tower. Offside of the tank, you've got, where my hand is covering, your vehicle identification number. Just in front of the expansion tank, you've got your dust cover that covers your low pressure air conditioning recharge point. Now to the left of that, you've got one of your air conditioning pressure sensors. Just in front of that sensor, you've got another wiring harness, your high pressure pipe for your air conditioning system, one of your engine mounts, and your expansion line. Near side of the expansion tank, you've got your pipe here. Now that pipe is your fuel feed pipe to the rail, and this is part of your return system for the fuel system. This is a pulsation damper. Moving to the right, you can see your evap solenoid. Moving back from the previous location, you can see your rocker cover, all three of your fuel injector electrical connectors, your fuel rail, another wiring harness, and other components. Moving more forward, you have your inlet manifold, and all three of the inlet manifold runners. Moving down to this location, you can see your alternator cooling holes. Behind the holes, you've got your stator windings for the alternator. Moving further down in this location, you can see your auxiliary belt system. Now this system consists of your auxiliary belt tensioner pulley, your crankshaft pulley, your pulley for the air conditioning compressor, and your alternator pulley. Moving up to this location, you can see one of your chassis rails. One thing I forgot to mention with this engine mount is you've got rubber inside the mount that reduces vibrations from the powertrain from going into the chassis. Now this is your engine mount bracket, which I mentioned earlier. Below one of your fuel return pipes, you've got your solenoid valve that controls your variable valve timing system for the inlet cam. You also have in this location your cover for your timing belt system and one of your engine crane hook attachment locations. Moving to this location, you can see your other dust cover for your other air conditioning recharge point. At the bottom of this engine compartment, you've got an aerodynamic shield. Moving up to this location, you can see one of your crush cans. You can also see one of your safety latches as well. Now to the right of that, you've got information about what refrigerant the air conditioning system takes. Now this here is your slam panel. You have air vents here that allow air to go through this component here to your air filter box. Then the air will travel down here to your throttle body and then into your inlet manifold to go into the engine. Then your exhaust will flow through the integrated exhaust manifold through the catalytic converter and out the exhaust. This component here is used to reduce induction roar. This pipe here is part of your induction system. This component here is used to secure the prop rod when not in use. Underneath your airbox lid, you've got your air filter element. You can just see one of your airbag crash sensors. Just above your inlet, you've got your other location for your bonnet prop stick. Just in front and below your intake manifold, you've got your cooling fan, which is powered by direct current, your electric cooling fan motor, cooling fan shroud, your spin-on style oil filter, and other components like your radiator and air conditioning condenser. Near side of your air filter box lid, you've got your cap for your washer fluid system. Moving over to this location, you've got your lid for one of your power distribution centers. And behind that, you've got your negative jump start terminal. To the left of your power distribution box lid, you've got a metal cover that covers your engine control unit. Now, below in this location, you can see the serial numbers for the engine control unit. To the left of that, you've got your battery tray and one of your systems that are used to hold the battery in the car. Now, just behind that, you've got your 12-volt battery. You have a cover here to prevent accidental short circuits. Now, this cable here is your main ground cable that leads to the battery. In this location here, you can see your negative post and your battery monitoring sensor. You also have information on the battery. Moving over to this location, you've got your thermostat housing. Behind the cover, you've got a gear wheel and belt. Now that belt is used to drive your coolant pump. Moving the camera back to this location, you can actually see your solenoid for your exhaust variable valve timing system. You also have one of your ignition coils, your oil filler cap, and one of the many grounds in the vehicle. Moving towards the back of the engine compartment, you've got your two coolant lines. Now these two coolant lines takes coolant to and from your heater matrix. To the right of that, you've got a vacuum feed line with a one-way check valve. You also have a sensor to measure vacuum. To the right of that, you've got your ABS modulator. Now on the modulator, you've got your pump, your two brake lines that goes to your master cylinder, and all four of your brake lines go into each of your wheel cylinders. Moving over to the left, you can see your catalytic converter. You also have your exhaust manifold that's built into the head, your pre-cat lambda probe, your post-cat lambda probe, and flex pipe. You can also see your steering rack and one of its boots. You also have your two selector cables for the transmission, and also heat shielding. Now moving to the left, you've got your master cylinder. You also have your brake fluid reservoir, and behind all that you would have your brake booster. Now this is one of your air conditioning pipes. You can just see on the top left of the video your brake fluid cap. On the off side of the scuttle panel, you've got your mechanism for your wiper system. You can also see the wiring harness to power the motor and control it. Towards the rear of the engine compartment and behind the auxiliary belt system, you have your offside drive shaft and its boot. You also see your anti-roll bar, your steering shaft boot, your subframe, your catalytic converter in more detail, and other components are in this location as well, like your heat shielding and sound deadening. On top of the transmission, you can see your other drive shaft and boot for the CV joint, the tripod joint. You also have your semi-cylinder for your clutch operating system, your transmission bell housing, your transmission, your differential housing, and other components. You also have serial numbers on the transmission telling you the transmission code and serial numbers. Moving over to this location, you can see your bracket for your other engine mount. Looking forward, near side of the engine compartment, you've got your other drive shaft, and you also have your cover for the transmission.